all. Welcome. My name's Grant. I'm from Prosper, and just for a bit of context for those who are not familiar with Prosper and what we do, we build resources to help university and polytech students find work. So we power the Great New Zealand Job Board, and we're powering this. We're providing the technology in partnership with your polytech today to help, all of you find work and hopefully get an ideal start to your career. So I'll be moderating this panel session, I guess, and I've got a bit of an all-star cast online today. So really excited to have Shankar from Connect to Care join us, Amon from Counties Manukau DHB, and Melanie Johnson from St John's. So I might, as opposed to me introducing you three, I might actually go around the Zoom room per se and get you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about your role in the organisation and what you do day to day and the type of students that you're looking for. Maybe Shankar, if I can kick things off in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Shankar. I am the head of talent or recruitment here at Connect to Care. We are a allied health provider here in Melbourne, Australia. So we cover all of Australia except Tasmania. And the main sort of roles that we hire are for OTs, speeches, psychologists, physios, podiatrists, and exercise physios. I guess for us in terms of graduates, our grad intakes are for December, Jan, Feb and March. And so they're the 4 months that we do that. We provide a graduate program for allied health professionals, and it's a very structured process in terms of what we offer, and really trying to get you up to speed. What we do is also provide support to the community. So it is not a clinical based setting, it is all a community based setting, and that's Connect to Care.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Shankar. And it's great to have you on. And looking forward to learning a little bit more about Connect to Care and the opportunities you offer today. What about you, Amon?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Amon. I'm one of 6 recruitment consultants for the Counties Manukau DHB. We look after the wider range of counties region as well. So for my specific portfolio, I look after nursing, new grads, healthcare assistants, support workers. My colleagues also, there's 3 of us in the nursing portfolio. So fire away with your questions if you have any, if you want to get into the pathway of nursing. I can also answer some questions if you want to take pathways to become a doctor, allied health, specializing in those areas as well. If I can't answer it, I will grab your details also and we can get that sorted and get the answers for you. But yeah, welcome.
Thanks, Amon. Great to have you online. And last but certainly not least, Melanie from St John.
Hi. So I'm Melanie Johnson. So I've been with St John for probably 3.5 years. Recently moved into a team leader position, which is interesting and challenging, as leadership roles usually are. So St John, as you probably know, run the emergency ambulance service across New Zealand. So we cover around 90% of the territory and about 97% of the population of New Zealand. So we're pretty significant. As well as doing the emergency ambulance, we also do things like the medical alarms, we do first aid training, and we have quite a few commercial interests as well. We're roughly 70% funded by the government, and the rest of our finances come from donations and from the commercial and the ambulance part charges. And we have something like 4,000 paid staff and somewhere around 8,500 to 9,000 volunteers across the country. So we're pretty big.
Wow. Thanks, Melanie. And you hire paramedics, is that correct? Predominantly
paramedics. So that's obviously those are going into the ambulance officer positions, but we also recruit any type of role that a large organisation has. So obviously we have an HR function, we have the IT function, the finance, etc., etc. Yeah.
Fantastic. What a diverse panel that we've got online. Well, I've got a few questions, and I can see more and more students are joining. So please feel free, if you've not familiar with Zoom, and you haven't, I feel like we're all somewhat familiar with Zoom over the last year and a half with lockdowns and whatnot. But if you're not, there's a Zoom chat function down the bottom panel. Click on that and start firing away some questions for the panel, and I'll moderate and get the answers from the panelists. But I've got a few, whilst we're waiting for a few to jump in there in terms of questions. I've got a few prescriptive ones to kick things off. And I might throw to you, Amon, to start things here in terms of what's your most what are the pieces of advice that you give to students when they're applying for work, and not just at Counties Manukau, but just in general in the healthcare sector?
My piece of advice is be really specific in what you want. Don't keep your options open as well. Don't always, there's that saying that says, don't keep your eggs all in one basket. There's other pathways that you might see later down on the track that you might want to take, whether that be, because there's different services within the health sector. There's medicine, you want to go down the medical pathway, you could go down the surgical pathway, you could go down other pathways of the health sector. So keep your options open and understand where you want to go in the health sector as well.
Yeah, nice advice. Be specific. Shankar, what about yourself? You've been in the recruitment space for a few years, and I'm sure you've seen your fair share of applications coming through. What are the top tips that you provide to students when applying for work?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the main thing that I would definitely say is if you are applying, make sure that your CV is in a easy to read format, especially with the likes of a lot of people applying. You want to make sure that if it is easy on the eyes for the recruiter, it just makes it that much easier for us to pinpoint information that we need to target and then give you that call and that follow-up call as well. But also following up on what Amon says, you guys are in a very lucky position in the sense that you are highly sought after. So make sure that you do your due diligence on every employer, make sure that you fit in terms of culture-wise, but also making that first step out of university and selecting that employer is a huge thing. So you want to make sure that it is the right fit wherever you go. It would be my main advice.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And don't spray and pray in terms of applying for work. Be quite specific, like you mentioned, Damon, and be quite targeted. Anything, Melanie, from your end, anything else to add on that thread?
I definitely agree with everything that's been said there. Specifically targeting which roles you want to go for, and rather than just doing a scattergun approach, actually think about which roles you want to go for. Read the adverts and the position descriptions carefully and just get a really good understanding of the role. Ring the recruiter if you want to know more about the job, if you don't quite understand some of the terms that are being used, and see what you can find out about the role before you actually apply for it. And when you're actually putting your application in, try and answer the things that they're looking for and keep your CV, no more than 2 or 3 pages. Keep it up to date. Make sure there's no typos in it, all those kind of basic things that you should be looking for when you're applying for a position. I also agree with the fact about, targeting where you want to go, but also keep your options open. And if something interesting comes up and you think, oh, that could be, I'm interested in that. It wasn't quite where I was expecting to go, but I like the organisation or I like that specific role, then go for it.
Yeah, love it. It's great advice. And just to maybe say on you, Melanie, in terms of when students apply for work, so they've sent through their CV, etc., what do they need to show or demonstrate in their application to progress to the next round? What are the things like the key things that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the clues are always in the advert. So when we're advertising, we're saying what we're looking for, and those are what the points that we're screening for. So if we're saying we need 5 years, or we're looking for a significant amount of experience in a such and such an area or particular degree, then those are the first things we're always looking for. And if you don't meet that basic criteria, then no matter how good your CV is and how great your cover letter, if you don't meet the basics, then sorry, you're very unlikely to progress.
Yeah. And what about you, Amon? What helps candidates stand out when you're screening applications?
So it's more having the qualification as well for, for the role itself, the years of experience as well. And I know that these are students that are coming through with new grads. We take new grads four times every 3 months a year. And that's January, April, September, and December. So we do a lot of intake for new grads for nurses. But in terms of students, you can also get your foot in the door if you are a nursing student as well. We look at your first. So if you've completed your first year of school or uni, we actually look at you and take you into consideration of becoming a healthcare assistant. But in terms of you standing out, it's just being specific on what you're after as well. And that's what we look at when we're looking at the CVs.
Amazing. And just to stay with you, actually, Amon, so I've got a question from Julia. Thanks, Julia, for asking the question in the chat here. So she's got a question for you. She's looking for part-time work as an enrolled nurse. So she's continuing studying with her bachelor's degree. Is that possible? Is there capacity for part-time roles within?
There is. There's definitely capacity for part-time roles. My best advice is that you take up a casual role, not to take up a part-time role, because then the hours become fixed. You want to be able to do a casual role where it's when and as required. So we only call you when you're needed. However, you still pick up the same amount of hours that you would as a casual when you're as a part-time kind of thing, if that makes sense. But yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
great. Thanks, Amon, and hopefully that helps you there, Julie. And again, I'm just going to quickly encourage everyone online, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. It makes it very engaging. I've got a few questions on my end, but feel free to dive in. So Shankar, just back to the application side of things, what helps students and candidates stand out when you're screening applications on your end?
I think with grads, more so than anything, if we look past the CV stage and it goes from the phone interview stage or just that screening element, I think the biggest attribute, we understand that you guys won't have an all-intensive experience, which is fine, but what will get you guys ahead is your enthusiasm and your clear communication skills, your ability to effectively convey your message across, and really, again, knowing what you want. But I think first and foremost, I think communication skills are probably the most underrated skill, but the most important skill that grads can have to get ahead would be my tip.
Yeah, fantastic. And for students who land a job with you, Shankar, what's their first year or so, even 6 months in the role look like?
I should also say for New Zealanders that are looking across to jump ship over to Australia, we also provide a $2,000 bonus. So if that's any incentive, please make sure to jump on through. But no, sorry, I forgot your question, Grant. What was that?
No, that's all right. It's a good little carrot. I'm sure that got a few people writing down. I know Melanie was quickly shaking her head saying don't.
Stay in New Zealand, we need to.
The question was more around like what does the first 6 to 12 months for a grad look like at Connect to Care?
Yeah, okay, no, good question. So in terms of our graduate program, so what essentially happens is, so in Australia, we are covering the NDIS. So that's essentially a national disability scheme that is provided to the government. So essentially giving empowerment back to people that are disabled to find people or providers that they want to go with. So a lot of our work is community-based. So what would happen in that graduate program, the first 2 days are understanding our internal processes and all things NDIS. And then after that, then we pop you on a shadowing program, and that goes for this goes for 8 weeks. And that's where you would then shadow a senior clinician and understand what best practice looks like. And then from there, you would start to pick up your own small caseload. And that's when you would have a senior clinician then observe yourself and then provide you feedback along the way. So it is very structured. And then from there, you gradually then build up your caseload, and that goes for 12 months. And then once you're there for about 2 years, you can then ask to specialise. And that's how it goes from there.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Melanie, what about yourself? What does the first few months to a year look like in the St John space?
Yeah, we obviously always start with induction programs, and it depends what career path people have had with St John. So a lot of people come in as volunteers, particularly as students. They'll start volunteering or taking on casual positions while they're studying. So when they actually graduate, they already have that relationship with us. We know them, they know us. They have a good idea of the type of roles that they're going to be going into. My advice probably during the first 6 months is ask lots of questions, suck in all the information you can get. Remember that you're representing your organisation once you're employed, so think about how you present yourself and how you communicate with people, and just try and create a really good impression with everybody.
Yeah, that's great advice. I heard recently on a panel that, and it was really sound advice, that your learning doesn't just stop when you graduate from either university or a polytech. It actually, continuous learning is something that you'll hear amongst employers a lot, and it really, your journey sort of starts a lot in terms of learning stuff and being a bit of a sponge.
Say yes to all the opportunities, because all sorts of things will come your way. You'll get asked to be involved in projects or things that you haven't even thought about, and say yes to it, and just try and gain as much experience and as many contacts as you can. Yeah,
fantastic. What about yourself, Amon? What are the maybe top 2 or 3 sort of do's and don'ts when graduates land on the job in the nursing space?
Don't not show up. That's number 1. Definitely ask a lot of questions when you're, as Melanie did say, ask a lot of questions in your first, with new grads as well. In the new grad space for Counties Manukau region, we have a program that is run for 12 months. That 12 months gives you the opportunity to also do your postgrad papers to complete your degree, and also give you that extra level of confidence alongside with nurse educators and clinical coaches that will be working alongside with you to give you that boost. So in that year, in that space, you will definitely be thrown a lot of, not in the deep end, but you'll be thrown a lot of challenges where you can answer, where you can ask those questions that you need to ask. And don't be scared to ask questions. When you start off, no question is a dumb question. You're still learning. You learn more while hands-on than you do when you're kind of studying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for sharing, Amon. And I might actually stay with you because I had a question. There's a lot of questions coming through in the chat, actually, so I might dive into them because I feel like they might pile up very quickly. So this is from Julia. Thanks, Julia, for this question. Sorry, that was, apologies, actually. We'd already answered that one. This is why I can't keep up. This is one for you, actually, Melanie, from Evie. So her question is, if I get past the CV stage of applying, what's the next steps in applying? I.e., is it face-to-face interviews? Is it clinical skill assessment? Can you walk Evie through that a little bit further?
It depends where you are in your degree. So if you're a paramedic student, then we'd usually advise you to apply for an EMT position, and we usually do assessment centres depending on which area of the country you're applying for, but it would usually involve a physical assessment and an interview, and there may be some clinical questions as part of that process. So there's kind of 2 parts to it. Part of it is actually getting the job and being offered a role with us, and the second part is gaining your authority to practice, which is the internal, how do I describe it? It's basically your authority to actually do certain things and administer certain drugs within our practice guidelines. So that is actually a clinical assessment, and that's a couple of hours where you do various skill stations and we check that you have the clinical knowledge to be able to do the job. So there's 2 components to it.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. Hopefully that answers your question really well, Evie. Shankar, I might throw this one to you, actually. There's a couple of questions coming through in the chat around student visas and how that works. So I guess this is related to obviously moving across to Oz, but also staying even in New Zealand if they're international students. Can you walk everyone through that a little bit?
So if you are a New Zealand citizen, there is actually no requirements in terms of getting an extra visa, what have you. It's just essentially jumping across the waters and coming across. There are some things that I guess can hold up the process. So essentially, because there are two different registration bodies, especially for like OTs and speeches, once the accreditation is provided in NZ, once you come over, there are a few sort of admin processes that we need to tackle, would be a lighter word. But essentially that's it. Once you've got your registration and stuff like that, you need to get your banks set up there in Australia. But in terms of sort of visas and stuff like that, you're pretty much good to go. There's no sort of restrictions on our end.
Yeah, fantastic. Anything else to add on that front, Amon or Melanie, in terms of visa statuses, especially for students that maybe don't have a New Zealand citizenship, but they've got working rights? No, that comes up quite often.
Yeah, so if you, like, for example, if you have an Australian, citizenship, I mean, you're pretty much good to go here. If you're outside and you have, say, for example, a student visa, we actually don't. So if you were a successful new grad, we would look at the terms with immigration, because we deal with immigration directly as well. We would assist with helping with your visa. However, with the threshold that immigration currently has for a nurse to become a permanent resident in New Zealand, you'd have to meet the threshold that they have set, and the threshold for nurses in New Zealand actually don't meet the threshold, which is sad, and we're trying to fight that as well with the NZNO and the MECAs and everything. But yeah, so the only thing is that we could probably put you on an essential skills visa, knowing that, and it's only like a working visa for like a period of 2 years, and that can be renewed every 2 years. But in terms of becoming like a resident or permanent resident or citizen here in New Zealand through that visa term, unfortunately, you would have to meet that threshold in order to go through that channel. Yeah.
Got you. Thanks, Amon. Melanie, anything else to add on that front?
No, probably not much to add to it, other than, if you're the right candidate, we will do everything we can to help you be able to work for us. So we have a good relationship with New Zealand Immigration, and I can think of a few people that we've managed to help get a visa to be able to work in New Zealand. So yeah, it's something we're actively supportive of. Great
to hear. Very positive then. I might stay with you then, Melanie, on this one. So this is from Jackie. So what sort of qualifications do you need basically for someone to be a call taker for St. John? And then in addition to that, any medical training needed?
The call handlers, there's no specific medical background required. Obviously an interest in it is helpful. It's around communications, and we train very, very thoroughly for anyone that's taking call handlers, and it's quite a robust recruitment process for people coming into those roles. They are fairly high pressure roles, quite stressful, as you can imagine, the type of calls that they have to deal with. But we actively recruit for Auckland and Christchurch on a regular basis. So we're very happy to talk about that further if anyone wants to come to the booth afterwards. A couple of the team are on there who actually recruit in that space, and they'll be able to answer specific questions.
Thanks, Melanie. That's a really good reminder, actually. So, and we've got about 5 minutes until we wrap up this panel session, but all three employers have actually got virtual booths, and they're exhibiting at the career fair. So from 11:30 onwards, feel free to jump into these booths, because we might not have time to get through all the questions right now. Shankar, it seems like you piqued a bit of interest in the chat here with that $2,000 bonus moving to Australia. So there was a couple of questions in terms of I think one was from Margaret, actually. So she asks, what are the chances of getting a job as an Australian graduate or a new grad? Is it advisable to do an NETP and then move to Australia? Can you walk through that a little bit?
I'm not sure.
Please, does anyone know what NETP is? Maybe I'm on.
So NETP is a program that is used by the DHBs, and that's a 12-month program. The NETP program is for new grads. So with that, in order for you to move to Australia, we do advise that you do complete the NETP program. But in order to be successful in the NETP program, you also have to pass state. It does help and it makes it easier for you to get into DHBs if you do the NETP program, because if you don't, it makes it harder for you to get in later years, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Great. Thanks for sharing some more context there, Amon. So Shankar, what are the chances for students landing a grad job?
So I would say if you are a allied health professional and you are looking to come across to Australia, you will have an abundance of offers within Australia. So you definitely, I don't think you'll have any troubles at all finding an opportunity. It would just be a matter of fact of actually finding that right opportunity. So I would definitely encourage people, because again, we're also in the same boat as NZ. There's a shortage of allied health professionals. So again, that's, I guess, one of the reasons we're also here as well, to definitely try and cast the net. So no, I definitely encourage, if you are looking to go abroad, Australia will definitely have you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shankar. Well, let's maybe wrap things up with a few closing statements in terms of why students should come and work for your organisation. Show of hands, who wants to kick us off? If not, I can nominate. Oh, Shankar, I think you've just got in first there.
So I think besides the $2,000 bonus, all expenses paid, and the beautiful sun and beaches and beautiful weather in Australia. Look, in terms of Connect to Care, we're such a flat structured organisation, and we're such a young organisation. We're not stuck in our ways. So essentially, we're looking to innovate. We're looking to change the way that we operate. We're always looking for great people and just build great culture. If you're looking to learn, and if you're looking just for a change of scenery, then I would definitely recommend Connect to Care. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks, Shankar. Melanie, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, St John runs 90% of the National Ambulance Service, so we do a lot of work in that area. We have a very strong focus on women in leadership, and we're definitely working on increasing our diversity within our organisation. So those are two focuses for us. We have all those benefits of being a large organisation. So we have great career pathways, we have management opportunities, and lots of support to enable you to grow and develop your skills. So if you have any interest whatsoever, or you want to know more about us, please come and talk to us in our booth shortly.
Thanks, Melody. And it was interesting to say, to share as well earlier, that you hire obviously paramedics, but a breadth of roles as well. So for students that might not be studying a health, like an allied health qualification as well, that are online today. I know there's a few that might be of interest.
Yeah, and if anyone's got any queries about cross-crediting, that type of thing, then they can definitely come and have a chat with us. And we can sort of talk about potential pathways.
Fantastic. And Amon, what about yourself? Why should students come and work for Counties Manukau?
Well, first, we've got the biggest ED in Australasia. So that's one of our biggest
good selling point.
Good ones, yeah, definitely. We're cultural diverse, so there's no day is the same at Counties Manukau. Everyone's friendly. We got all the support that you need. We will definitely coach you to get to where you want to get to, whether that be in senior management levels or, CEO. If you want to get there, we can help you, definitely. And why not stay in New Zealand or Auckland? Why go to Australia when you have it in your own backyard?
I love the competitiveness coming out. Fantastic. I must say, Shankar, when you mentioned Melbourne and good weather, I'm from Melbourne originally, and that didn't resonate with me. But I know that you hire roles outside of Melbourne, so
yeah, and we've got a pretty big backyard as well here in Australia as well.
No, I love the healthy competition. Awesome. Well, let's wrap things up there. Thank you. No snakes in New Zealand. I like that. Thanks, Mark.
Only kangaroos. Only kangaroos in Australia.
It's very true. Yeah, exactly. Someone politely put it one time that everything in Australia is trying to kill you, whether it's in the sea or on land. But yeah, thanks everyone for jumping in. Thanks to the panel. Yeah, fantastic insights. Really appreciate that. As I said to all the students who are online, there's a lot of you. Feel free to jump into the virtual booths. There was a lot of questions. Apologies that we didn't get to them. I think there's a few questions around whether Shankar and the team hires nurses and a few others. So feel free to dive into those employer booths and they can answer your questions one-to-one there. But yeah, on behalf of the team at Prosper, it's been a pleasure hosting this panel session, and we'll share the recording of that with you all afterwards as well. Awesome. Let's wrap things up. Bye for now. Thanks, panel, once again.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the fair.
Yeah.